Spin selling. What's the challenge that most salespeople have? The biggest challenge is they don't understand the difference between a one-time call low-value sale versus a complex sale. If you're in a business where your customers have to interact with you multiple times over the course of a week, 2 weeks, or even longer, you're in a complex sale environment. Sales has changed so much over the years, and today people know that they can smell when you're trying to sell to them. Spin selling is meant to counter that. Now, spin selling was invented by a guy named Neil Rackman. It has been around since 1998. This strategy can be used in pretty much any industry. And spin really just stands for situation, problem, implication, and need payoff questions. These different questions outline the different level of salesperson you're going to be. The first question is situational. For example, tell me about the current situation you're in. Tell me what's going on with your business. What type of sales process do you use? That is what most salespeople do. They ask those questions and they try to dig and they try to probe for information, which is the old school way of selling. As you start to go further into the discussion, you want to start asking problem questions. So if I'm asking them to tell me about the sales process and they explain to me what's going on, then I would ask a question like, so why is this causing you problems right now? Or what problems has this caused for you? So that's a problem question. And most people that are good in those low-value sales are good at asking those kinds of problem questions and digging deeper, and that's what probing's all about. Most people will be able to get by on those two levels of questions. But the value is really in the third and fourth level questions. So the third level is the implication questions. You ask about a problem, they're going to tell you what the problem is, and there's always going to be some kind of implied need there. And when you're paying attention to that sales language, you'll be able to spot that implied need. And the question then becomes, what happens if you don't fix this problem? And when you get them to explain to you how the problem builds on itself, and the more you ask those implication questions, the deeper you can get in the conversation. So if I were going to ask an implication question, I would say something like, what happens if you don't tighten up your sales process? Or what happens if you don't start getting those conversions in order? So that's an implication question. Getting your customer to start thinking about where this would go. And if they start telling you more implied needs, you can actually dig further into those implications. The last one is the need payoff question. And the need payoff is, tell me what would happen if we increased your sales by 25%. Or what would it look like if you had a 95% increase in your customer satisfaction ratings? Now you're talking about solutions rather than problems. And the beauty about this is that when you get your customer involved in how a solution will solve their needs, you actually empower them to become mini salesperson in support of your cause. They become evangelists for what you're doing, especially if they have to go sell this to someone else, like their boss, superior, or some management team. The need payoff question is really going to get them involved in coming up with a solution. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to buy your solution, just that a solution is in order. So those are the 4 types of questions you can ask. And the better you get at asking the last 3 questions, the problem questions, the implication questions, and the need payoff questions, the faster you're going to be able to succeed in some of these sales calls. Remember that when spin selling was released, it was based on 12 years of research and 35,000 sales calls in all sorts of complex sale environments. So this stuff really is rooted in science and data, which I love because they tested, and they found those gaps in the sales process. So in your sales process, make sure that you're testing ideas. Make sure that you're testing what works and what doesn't. And start to work on asking those deeper questions. Most amateur salespeople stop at situation or problem questions because they haven't thought further about how to ask those deeper questions. And then what they'll do after asking a couple situation questions, their customers will get bored with the process. And so then they'll drop their marketing material in front of them and say, okay, let's look at the solution. And that's precisely what's losing so many sales today. So let's get to work on asking those implication and need payoff questions.